All right, guys. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Let's get right into it. Let me make sure I fix this camera. Here we go. Let's get right into it. There it is. All right. All right, man. Look, I'm kind of happy right now because gold is giving us another re-entry opportunity. So let's see what we got, man. The market is definitely lining up nicely. It's looking a little juicy. I made some money on the sell, but not as much as I wanted to. And I had 2 stop loss triggered before that sell happened because it was a little rough on the pullback, but not too bad. I'm gonna go over it real quick with you guys, see what's going on. All right. So this is where gold is at right now, man. It's around the area where it could potentially sell from here. This would be a great sell entry area, but at the same time, we don't know if the pullback is over yet. So we're gonna find out. What's up? What's up? What's up, Lewis? Nice to have you on here, man. All right, let's see what's going on here on the 15 and the 5-minute time frame. Boom. Yeah, so right now I think this sell is a fake sell. That's not really time to go just yet because I would think that price needs to fully test the top Bollinger Band here. So let me go ahead and write that. This would be the first potential entry area. Time to enter a trade. Yeah, I think it's gonna go for a buy for right now, but let me finish and just write. This would be it. Just leave this there for now. We're not gonna say nothing about it. All right. So we got potential retest right here and even up there from the 15-minute time frame, but I think that's pretty high of a pullback. Most likely we could get a pullback, I would say top Bollinger Band up there. Let's see on the 1 minute how we're looking. This is how we're looking right now in the 1 minute time frame. All right, price is looking like it's starting to sell nicely, but let's see. We could still be on that buy trend, so don't be too in a rush to sell just yet. For that to happen, price would fully go underneath here. So let's see. So right here is a 50 MA. I think price is gonna just buy up right now from the 50 MA to go to the top Bollinger Band. It's gonna push up. There it is. There is a potential take profit. It wants to reach here on this time frame, and again that would be the 5-minute top Bollinger Band. So if you get in a buy entry here with a stop loss underneath the 50, that's a pretty good entry for a buy right now. For a buy, notice the price is pushing up. And the last thing we would want on this setup is to be too excited for it and self-sabotage ourselves by losing our account, losing equity, rushing into trade, and then as the week goes, we miss out on move because of chasing. So we don't want that to happen. This is why we're taking our time with our entries and just being precise overall. But one thing I could say for sure, as of right now, gold have shown that it wants to continue going down for the week. This is how it's looking right now, all the way underneath the bottom Bollinger Band. So we may even go further down here, but after a good entry that we need to see. Okay, so overall, looking at this on the H4 time frame, we are not fully at the bottom underneath the middle Bollinger Band. That's why I have this trend line here. But I could tell you this, when price goes below this area again, if price goes below this area again, I am looking to sell long term, because take profit would then be down here after, of course, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. So right now, our goal is to see how we could capitalize on this entry here. So let's see if this pullback have reached the limit or not. Last night entries was a nice entry, but there was pullback. Same thing happening here. So this is why we want to be patient with our setup here. I add this little order block there just so I could see if price is going to respect it or break it. Most likely going to respect it. Okay, there it is. I'm just adding a quick trend line here on my end. If price does not respect that trend line, then I know we're selling. It's like a small trend line. Let me put it here as well on the 1 minute time frame. And then we're going to go over Jackpot strategy, what it's actually saying. You notice how I'm taking my trade on the more so of a naked chart. I only have 50 MA and Bollinger Bands here. So that's the basic Jackpot strategy anyone could get and just set up just to trade the proper way, you know, as far as like getting good entries and exits. That's really all that matters. Alright, so here's the uptrend line, and okay, notice price is respecting the bullish momentum here, buying from that daily entry zone. That is a nice entry zone. On the Jackpot strategy, it looks like this. See, as you can see, we have what we call daily entry, DE. Very important. Daily entry is where you get the daily entry for that particular move. So as of right now, this is a buy move. This is a buy move with a stop loss underneath the daily. That's a good move right there. It's definitely going to reach, I believe, top Bollinger Band up here. Alright, notice as well, we also have all green bullish half trend as well, pushing price higher. So that's nice. We want to see that higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high for a new higher high right now. But the thing about this trade is that I want you guys to understand that we still on a downtrend here. Okay, that's what's important. Now, price is going to go a little higher. I don't know how much higher it could reach, but I'm giving it an overall maximum limit. right here. All right, this was yesterday's trade, but notice stop loss would have triggered as well. I had to be up to see this trade, but I went to take a nap, so I didn't get a chance to re-enter. I only re-entered late, which I still made some profit on it, not as much as I wanted to. But right now, I would say because we have a half trend on the H1 saying to sell, I would just remove the sell bias overall and see how far up is gold is going to give us that pullback. All right, once we understand and can identify how far we can get that pullback, now we could better prepare ourselves for the trade. Now, for this week, if gold decides to continue staying for a sell, because gold has been breaking my zone here, going down for sells also right here, and is going to do it right here as well. Now, for me to fully know and be confident in a nice sell trade, realistically, I want to take the trade around the next daily entry, which would be up here if price go up. So even if price does not give the new daily entry here, if we get a pullback to test this key zone, this is where I would really want to enter my sell trade, right? And as of right now, if I wanted to participate in this trade, I would be looking for a buy, a small buy, simply because overall right now, based on my indicators, price is above the daily entry. So I would take a buy here with a stop loss underneath the daily entry. We also have a signal for a buy as well, since down here. So that's pretty cool to see. So if I zoom in, here it is, 5-minute time frame. We could see as long as we stay above this area, we should be bullish. Now, here's what's interesting. If I zoom in, it's showing me, okay, if price starts to buy, the next destination would be top Bollinger Band on the 5-minute time frame for this setup. All right, because we already have a buy signal right here for gold on the 5-minute time frame. That's pretty cool. So once the time comes, we take our entry, it's going to go. All right, now here's the hard part about this. It could pull back all the way to test these support zone on the 5-minute time frame. So if it happens to do that, just know that that's a possibility. So as of right now, it's looking good for a buy to go test up here. Once it tests up here, then I may look to do my sell trade. Yeah, I've been real, I wouldn't say hesitant, maybe yesterday a little bit, but I've been real patient for my moves nowadays, because I know that move is going to be a lot better than chasing after crumbs, you know? All right. So let's check real quick. Nas 100, see what we have potentially, and then let's go check the news to see what's going on. From what I was hearing earlier, Israel and Iran still ended up firing more missiles after President Trump said what he said. So I have to see what's going on with that and where we stand. So gold, like I said, right now, it's looking a little bullish. It's above daily entry. Good area where I would enter for a buy. That's just where it's at right now. And then NAS 100. Let's see. NAS 100 has been on the uptrend this week so far. I made some good profits here on this buy. I didn't end up sending any signal for it, but it was a good setup for sure. Seen it clearly. Right now, it's still bullish, and I think we're going to reach this area right here. I have a buy TP there. Well, I could have been in this straight holding it, but I didn't. I closed like about right here, so I just missed out on all of this extra. It's all good. Still early in the week. So NAS 100 still on a bullish trend. It's going to buy up to reach new support zone. Yeah, so we just gotta kind of wait and see. So yeah, that's where we at. Gold is still, this is where gold is at right now, consolidating between some of my zones. No trade for me yet. So I'm gonna wait a little bit longer. I know where I would want to enter though, would be, like I said, 5-minute top Bollinger Band for gold. So that's like about right here. I could attempt, maybe try, depending on how strong the bull trend is. I would attempt there. If not, then we going all the way up here for a retest. So here is where I would feel very comfortable to do a sell trade. Here as well, key zone. Here as well, the signal from the confirmation. Yeah, that's a great area where I would do that. Yeah. So yeah, keep an eye on gold. If gold don't end up going higher, of course it's gonna break support, go underneath daily entry, and then from there, you'll be able to see where price could potentially go to for a sub. But everything is saying buy right now, all bullish for gold based on the signal. So I'm looking for gold buy, test resistance zone right up here. Alright, let's see what's going on here, man. We've seen that yesterday.
We have this story covered from all angles, all around the world. NBC's senior national security correspondent Courtney Kube is at the Pentagon. NBC's Monica Alba is at the White House. NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons is in Erbil, Iraq. I'm also joined by NBC's law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter, NBC's chief foreign affairs correspondent Andrea Mitchell, and retired four-star General Joseph Votel. Thank you all for being here. Joseph, of course, the former commander of the U.S. Central Command, now a distinguished senior fellow at the Middle East Institute. Courtney, let's start with you. What do we know about this attack and the base that was targeted?
Okay, so we're just learning a little bit more via social media from President Trump. One question that we've had is exactly how many missiles were fired from Iran. He's now saying, again, via Truth Social, that 14 missiles were fired. 13 were knocked down, and one was apparently not a danger to the base, so was allowed to just carry on and impact somewhere. We're still told, according to defense officials, that there are no reports of any casualties. There's no reports of any damage to the base at this point. And the belief here is that this attack is over, at least this wave against al-Udeid. General Votel is the expert on this, but I can tell you a little bit about al-Udeid. That is It's the Forward Command headquarters for U.S. Central Command. Of course, the main headquarters is in Tampa, Florida. But Al Udeid at Doha is where the forward base is. It's also the home of the CAOC, the Combined Air Operations Center. It's essentially the hub that runs all air operations for the Middle East. This base has upwards of about 5,000 U.S. airmen, U.S. service members there, and then on any given day, as many as 5,000 additional civilians and contractors. So it's an enormous base, sprawling base. You'll recall, Ryan, that as the tensions have increased in the region, the U.S. has moved some people and some assets out to get them out of any potential harm's way, but a defense official is telling us that the number of people moved and the aircraft and things were relatively small given the size and the scope of what's actually generally based there at Al Udeid. So again, at this point, what we know is that those 14 missiles, 13 of them were shot down. Still no reports of any casualties, Ryan.
And of course, the question now is what comes next, Courtney? Do we think this is the extent of Iran's retaliation, or could there be more retaliatory strikes on U.S. bases in the region?
So officials were telling us earlier today that there were potential threats against other bases and assets in the region. At this point, no one is saying, hey, this is it. All of the Iranian retaliation is done. I think that it's just too early to say that right now, but there's definitely some hope that maybe this is the Iranian response. Remember, we've been hearing from Iran themselves. They are saying that they fired the same number of missiles as what were the bombs that were launched against two of their nuclear facilities. Those are the 14 massive ordnance penetrators that US B-2 bombers struck two of their nuclear sites with over the weekend. But at this point, it's just too early to say whether this is really the extent of the Iranian retaliation. Remember, there are additional U.S. bases, there are U.S. Navy ships. There are definitely more targets if Iran were to decide to do so.
And of course, their side of it is one part of this, but there's obviously the United States and the possibility of retaliation there. President Trump said previously that if Iran attacked, that they would be met with even greater force than of the original attack. Are there any plans right now at the Pentagon to respond to these strikes?
So, Ryan, I guarantee before the U.S. even began these military strikes over the weekend, I guarantee that they also had plans ready for what to do if and when Iran were to respond or retaliate. And that would probably run the gamut of everything from Iran not retaliating at all or not doing anything kinetic to a large-scale Iranian retaliation that could lead to some sort of a mass casualty event. I suspect that a large part of the conversation that's been going on in the Situation Room today has been going through the options that the U.S. has ready for President Trump to look through and see. But, you know, past his prologue here, if in fact this is really the extent of the Iranian retaliation, it's very possible that this back and forth just sort of fizzles out with this.
And Courtney, the president seems somewhat annoyed by the way people have been assessing the damage that took place after this attack. But we still have yet to get a full readout from the Pentagon as to just how effective this strike was, correct?
Yeah, I mean, a battle damage assessment is not an instant thing. And especially when you don't have men and women on the ground there to get eyes on the target and to see exactly what was done. And this is only compounded by the fact that the targets were deep underground. So they're going to be looking at satellite images. They're going to be gathering other intelligence. Generally, it could take days or even weeks for them to get a solid assessment of exactly whether the facilities were not just damaged. I think there's no question that just the firepower that was unleashed on these three sites, there had to have been damage to the facilities. But as far as whether they were actually destroyed or how far they may have even been set back, that is just likely to take some time. The reality is here, there has been a lot of reporting. We have been talking nonstop about these strikes since they occurred, Ryan. And there is no question about the fact that this was an extremely well-coordinated, covert military action, coordinated across multiple services, multiple platforms here. No one is questioning that. But when it comes to the actual assessment of just the extent of the damage, it's simply, according to the officials we're talking to, it's just simply not complete yet.
And completely ending the Iranian nuclear program is a very, very difficult task. So we'll have to see if that's exactly what happened here. Courtney Kube at the Pentagon, thanks for that. Let's now go to the White House. Monica Alba standing by there. We just got our first reaction from the White House on these retaliatory strikes. And Monica, it does seem a bit needed from President Trump.
We don't know the damage.
Well, look, and it's also notable, Ryan, that this is a day where the president could decide to come speak to reporters, to take questions on all of this, to talk about the strikes from over the weekend, extrapolate on this retaliation that we did see today, but instead he's choosing to do so on his social media platform, as he so often does. And you're right, he is now trying to pivot the conversation to this idea of, in his words, he says now it's time, quote, for peace, and they are trying to tout this idea that the president is approaching this as peace through strength, of course, given the military intervention that we saw on Saturday, now coupled with what we're seeing, which is the president urging some restraint here and saying hopefully he feels that now this can be put to the side as long as there aren't any additional retaliations. He said he was also very pleased to see that no Qataris were injured or worse killed in these intercepted missiles on the U.S. airbase. And he says simply that now he feels, again, that this is the time to perhaps resume some of these diplomatic talks that seemingly appeared to be very difficult and off the rails, really, in the last couple of days, as we all know, but that now he may be pushing for some kind of return to those. But again, he's not appearing before the cameras to, as he so often does, take questions on all of this. He is just issuing these statements. And we know that he was in the Situation Room for several hours, monitoring this all in real time from the White House today. But then he'll be on the world stage tomorrow, where certainly this will be top of mind.
Obviously, the reaction, I think it's fair to say, in parts of Europe has been mixed to this, the way that this conflict is developing. And we see President Trump expected to head to NATO for the summit there tomorrow. I have to imagine that the situation in the Middle East is going to loom large over those talks.
And it already was with the instance of the G7, as we saw just a week ago. If you can believe it, Ryan, it feels like an eternity. But just a week or so ago, the president was in Canada for those meetings with leaders, and then he cut the trip short to return here to the White House because of what was unfolding in the war between Israel and Iran. So tomorrow he does head to The Hague in the Netherlands to have these talks with world leaders. And we can expect, again, yes, this approach that there's still some hope for some kind of diplomatic avenue here for what could be left. Now, again, the president argues that everything was completely obliterated when it comes to Iran's nuclear program. Experts have raised questions about some of the enriched uranium that either could or was not moved from certain nuclear sites, or more enriched uranium that was not a part of the calculation that could still exist and be out there. And I think that's what so many leaders have expressed concern over, that certainly it's not like the threat from there has been completely contained, but perhaps now there is a little bit of a window for some of these talks to resume between world leaders, between intermediaries. And we just confirmed some reporting that Axios had over the weekend that the president even discussed having a back channel with Iranian officials through officials in Turkey, traveling perhaps to Istanbul himself to attend those last week. That was one of the last ditch efforts that was made. And ultimately that was scrapped because the Iran supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, couldn't essentially authorize any kind of such meeting. So that was put to the side, but he was willing to even send his vice president, his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, to perhaps take part in some of those talks. Again, that was all sidelined, obviously, and we'll see now what kind of communication could or could not continue with the Iranians, indirectly or directly.
Okay, Monica Alba at the White House, thanks for that. Let's head to the region now where Kira is standing by. You are in Erbil, which is near a U.S. airbase. Obviously, this is one of the bases that could potentially be targeted by Iran. What are you seeing and hearing on the ground there?
Yeah, Ryan, that base is right behind me there. You can see the lights twinkling in the distance. In the other direction, we're about 2 hours away from the Iranian border. So this base is one of the closest U.S. bases to Iran. And for some time tonight, we did think that Iraq would be targeted. We also thought Bahrain might be targeted, where, of course, the Fifth Fleet is based. And yet, ultimately, we had this one target against that base in Qatar. And effectively, you heard J.D. Vance at the beginning, Vice President Vance at the beginning of the show there saying, like, we're not targeting Iran, we're targeting Iran's nuclear program. Well, really, the Iranians are saying, well, we're not targeting our neighbors, our Arab neighbors, we're not targeting Qatar, we're just targeting a U.S. base in Qatar. And that's effectively what they said in a statement, saying, you know, that our aim is not to send a message to Qatar. It is to send a message through the White House. Significant, though, that it was intercepted. Significant, too, that the Qataris were given advance notice. In fact, they were the first to close their airspace, as if they heard about it first. And you might think that in Tehran, in the capital of Iran, they calculated that they could fire these missiles, that they would get stopped because it's a very well-defended base, and that they would be able to kind of symbolically say something, but not have to do something that might cause further escalation with President Trump.
And President Trump actually just posting, saying that he did get a heads up from Iran on this. I know you have already described it perhaps as a symbolic attack. Could this mean that Iran is looking for an entry to get to the negotiating table?
Well, I think, it's a symbolic attack, except for that the very important caveat, of course, that when you fire missiles at another country, you can't be absolutely confident that something won't happen. So to say that it's dangerous is an understatement. That being said, people are going to be picking over this indefinitely to think about whether Iran wants an off-ramp. They have indicated previously that they did. You'll remember, we're only days from when Tehran began to indicate that they would like to negotiate. It is possible that's what's happening. But really the question is Iran prepared to give up on its nuclear program and to give up on the uranium that it has enriched to 60%? An important piece of reporting today, too, right? We don't know publicly where that enriched uranium is. Now, it's very likely possible that the Israelis do, the US does, the Iranians must do, that's theirs. But the question of how to get it out of the country, how to ensure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands, those are questions that are still looming despite the attack over the weekend by the US on Iran's nuclear program.
Okay, Keir Simmons in Iraq. Keir, thank you for that. Let's move now to Tom Winter. And Tom, you have some reporting on a communique to President Trump where Iran threatened to activate sleeper cells in the United States. What more do we know about this?
Of course, and that reporting is quarterbacked by our own Carol Lee, Courtney Kube, and Monica Alba. I think when you look at it, Iran leading up to this had to communicate some sort of response to the U.S. as kind of the drums started to beat louder that the U.S. might get involved in what Israel had already launched against Iran. And so they communicated to the U.S. effectively saying, look, we have sleeper cells in the United States. It will turn them loose and conduct attacks in the United States if the U.S. decides to bomb Iran. Well, that's what Iran says. What they actually have the capability of doing could, in fact, be an entirely different thing. And right now, we have no indication that Iran has any sort of quote-unquote sleeper cells, a real throwback to the early 2000s terrorism environment here in the United States. That doesn't mean that they haven't tried things in the past. They most assuredly have. We've seen multiple plots here in the United States, including plots involving an attempt to assassinate then President-elect Trump, now obviously President Trump. We've seen efforts twice to hire hitmen and criminal organizations to go after an Iranian journalist and activist here in New York City. And so that's the type of thing Iran has had some success in, at least starting in the past, is an effort to communicate and work with criminal gangs and organizations. The State Department, just as we're coming on the air here, Ryan, issued an alert based on press reports in Sweden saying that it was their indication in that country that Iran was trying to work with criminal groups there to try to effect some sort of attack against U.S. or Israeli interests. So that's the type of thing Iran has tried. Obviously, Ryan, I'm not talking to you about any sort of successful attacks, and that's something the U.S. is trying to keep their record up with.
Yeah, and of course, we know that you have to be 100% when it comes to keeping the country safe, when it comes to terror attacks. Even one sneaking through could be deadly and dangerous. So how would we describe the state of U.S. security at this moment?
Yeah, so I think they're doing all the things you might expect, right? So an additional police presence in some of the cities that have significant not only Israeli interests, not only Iranian interests, Jewish interests and Islamic interests. So cultural sites, diplomatic sites, religious institutions, the NYPD outside of mosques, outside of Jewish synagogues here in New York City as an example. They have a continuous presence at the Israeli consulate not far from the UN in New York City. And we're seeing that activity, as I mentioned, Los Angeles Angeles and Washington, D.C. And there are a number of other smaller departments in smaller parts of the country that, particularly after that Boulder attack against a group of members from the Jewish community in that city, protesting against the continuing holding of hostages by Hamas, that they were attacked. That's something where, again, law enforcement agencies are focused on.
Okay, Tom Winter, thank you for that. Let's turn now to Andrea Mitchell, one of the few people in the United States who's talked directly to an Iranian official in the past week or so. You just interviewed the Iranian foreign minister. What do you make of Iran's response in light of what the foreign minister told you? This was, of course, before the U.S. attack.
This is such a calibrated response, and I'm really struck by the president's Truth Social post in response to it, which is really very carefully worded. He points out, as Courtney Kube did, that there were 14 missiles, 13 were knocked down, 1 went awry, so it didn't have to be knocked down, it was not threatening. I'm pleased to report, he says, that no Americans were harmed, no damage to, to our base. It's the largest base in the region, as you know, 5,000 service members and another 5,000 civilians. We don't know how many were drawn down. And he says, it looks like they've gotten it out of their system, and there will hopefully be no further hate. I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice. So they gave us the heads up that it was coming. And we know that throughout the region, Bahrain, Kuwait, the UAE, and Qatar, of course, all closed their airspace. So they had that early warning from U.S. intel as well. The president at that point was in the Situation Room with his whole team, and they were in constant communication, visual as well as other communications with everyone in the region, obviously. And he says, perhaps Iran can now proceed to peace and harmony in the region, and I will enthusiastically encourage Israel to do the same. Thank you for your attention to this matter. That is a very calibrated and calm response.
So it seems as though he wants to get back to the negotiating table, judging by that post. Do you think there's any chance Tehran wants to get back to the negotiating table?
I think that there could be an off-ramp here, and that they could want an off-ramp because they took the foreign minister who went to Moscow today and met with Vladimir Putin took a very hard line with me. This was only on Friday, so all of this was in quick sequence. And as we know, the planes were already in the air, but the final go had not been given.
When did you see this from earlier?
I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. It's ridiculous. I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. All I do is play both sides. I'm going now, as you know, to NATO. Some of you are going with me, and I think it's going to be successful. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what they're doing. Do you understand that?
The president does not know. The president of the United States does not know if this ceasefire is still in effect. That's where we are this morning. He thinks both sides have violated it. And you heard him at the end there, just words of really, I think, frustration with both Israel and Iran with what's taken place since the president announced this deal.
Saying they don't know what they're doing and saying these guys have got to calm down. It's ridiculous. We're going to be replaying that quite a lot today and waiting for more reaction now from the region. Let's bring in our team coverage on this. We have CNN's Elena Treen live for us from the White House. Jeremy Diamond standing by in Israel. Fred Pleitgen also in Tehran for us this morning. Elena, first to you. This is some very important perspective coming from President Trump this morning.
That's exactly right. And I was just outside on the South Lawn with the president as he was speaking with us this morning before he departed on Marine One. Look, he is very, very frustrated and essentially downright angry. I have to argue. I mean, I've spent a lot of time with President Donald Trump. This is one of the most visibly angry times I have seen him. And it's clear that he's angry with both countries, both Israel and Iran. We asked him, does he believe the ceasefire is going to hold after we saw kind of the missile potentially fired from Iran, but then also the sharp language from the Israel foreign minister saying that he wants to retaliate with full force. The president said he does believe and he hopes that it will hold, but then he said as soon as he finished talking with us, he was going to make some calls and try to stop it. That was a direct quote. He said, I'm going to try to stop it as soon as I finish speaking with you all. But what he seemed to be very angry with as well is really Israel. I mean, he often tries to use, much more positive, optimistic language, favorable language when it comes to Israel, recognizing that they are one of the United States' strongest allies. But it is clear that he is very unhappy with how they have been acting in light of the news of this ceasefire. He said that perhaps Iran fired a stray missile, that maybe it didn't land, and he doesn't like that Israel was saying that they plan to retaliate with full force. And then he does something, he does like to curse. We know this president has done it multiple times, I know on the campaign trail over the past year or so, but he cursed again, and it was his parting language to us. He said, he was asked, do you think Israel wants peace? And he said these two countries have been fighting for so long together that they, quote, don't know what the F they're doing. And so, again, he is very frustrated with how this is all unfolding. It's very unclear as of now where this ceasefire stands, if it will be able to hold. But the president made very clear that he's going to be making calls to both countries, trying to get a sense of how they can try and figure this out and try to salvage this deal that I know last night he was celebrating along with all of his top advisors here at the White House.
Yeah, it can't not be overstated how much things have changed yet again in just a matter of hours with regard to this. And as you said, the president said as soon as he moved away from reporters and got on Marine One, he was going to start making calls. So a lot more to come. Elena Treen at the White House. Thank you so much, Elena. Stay close.
And just remember how we got to this place. The president announced a ceasefire had been brokered between Israel and Iran. Then as soon as the announcement was made, as the president said, Israel increased its attacks on Tehran. A lot of attacks overnight. Tehran firing back at Israel, some killed in Israel. And then after the deadline expired, another exchange there. Let's get to CNN's Jeremy Diamond in Israel. Jeremy, give us the latest from the Israeli perspective.
Well, the Israelis very much feel like Iran has violated the ceasefire agreements. They say that about 3 hours after the ceasefire went into effect, we heard, of course, the sirens that were sounding in northern Israel. And an Israeli military official tells us that there were 2 missiles that were fired there. Both, they say, were intercepted. We heard President Trump talking about a single rocket that he argued was being fired at northern Israel. But that is where the Israelis are accusing Iran of having violated this agreement, and also now vowing to strike back at Iran in response for that ceasefire violation. And that in particular seems to have been what got President Trump so upset this morning with those comments where, yes, he was talking about both Israel and Iran violating this ceasefire agreement in his view. But there's no question that the brunt of his anger there was indeed being directed at the Israeli government, and it very much sounded like he planned to get on the phone to the Israeli prime minister to try and stop Israel from striking back at Iran. We haven't gotten reports yet that those strikes have taken place, but we have heard from the Israeli defense minister as well as the chief of staff of the Israeli military, who both vowed that there would be firm strikes in Iran in response for those missiles that the Israeli officials say were fired at northern Israel. But then there's also this issue of what happened in the hours before the ceasefire. Yes, Israel was striking in Tehran very, very hard in the hours after President Trump announced the ceasefire, before it actually went into effect. But we also saw a very heavy barrage of more than 20 missiles, ballistic missiles, being fired by the Iranians, setting off sirens for about 2 hours straight, one after the other, in all parts of Israel. And of course, the deadliest impact happening in the southern city of Beersheba, very close to our location right now. At least 4 people were killed in that strike. More than 20 others were injured. Of course, the tragedy of it all, the fact that this happened less than an hour before that ceasefire actually went into effect. The final victims of this conflict, at least here in Israel, were claimed. John, Kate.
All right, Jeremy Diamond for us in Israel as this continues to develop. Thank you, Jeremy.
And on that exact point, let's get to Fred Pleitkin in Tehran for what is the perspective from there this morning, Fred?
Hi there, Kate. Yeah, and after the Israelis made that claim that Iranian missiles were flying towards Israeli territory, I got in touch with a senior Iranian official who flat out denied that the Iranians had fired any missiles toward Israel after the ceasefire went into effect. In fact, they said that the moment that time had come for the ceasefire, that no missiles had been fired from the Iranian side. The Iranians also now warning the Israelis against hitting Iranian territory, saying that would open up Iranian retaliation once again, and that everything within what they call the occupied territories, of course, meaning all of Israel, would then become a target for Iran. So some tough language coming out of Tehran here as well. Also, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which of course is that elite wing of Iran's military, claiming that there were several violations of its soil, as they put it, by the Israelis, possibly meaning incursion by some sort of aircraft in the hours after the ceasefire went into effect. What we're seeing right now, actually, here in Tehran, is that things are fairly calm here. I was on the streets a little bit earlier today. There's a lot of people who are out driving, some shops opening up. But what the president said there about the Israelis unloading overnight after the ceasefire deal was announced was definitely something that we saw and we felt here from our vantage point as well. I was up here on this roof when we all of a sudden heard Israeli Air Force planes what seemed to be Israeli Air Force planes streaking past, and then extremely loud explosions rocking our building and then rocking also a lot of other places in central Tehran as well. We saw a lot of outgoing anti-aircraft gunfire coming from the Iranians. The skies here over the city really were illuminated. That went on for the better part of, I would say, about half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe up to an hour, where those loud bangs continue. The Israelis at some point even issued evacuation orders for certain districts here in the morning, when obviously people in those districts most probably would have been asleep. So it certainly was a night that saw a lot of kinetic activity. And as of right now, the Iranians are saying that their forces are not firing back. The foreign minister of this country, Abbas Araghchi, he came out and said that Iranian forces had fired until the moment that the ceasefire went into effect, which the Iranians consider to be 4 a.m. In the morning, and that since then, no projectiles, they say, have been fired from Iran towards Israeli territory.
Necesitas más potencia, más control. Necesitas hosting, VPS de Hostinger. Dile adiós a la...
Yeah, man. Guys. I just try to just trade the market normally and not let all of that get to my head and make me hesitant or anything. I just know that because that's going on, I could have more opportunities when it comes to volatility and pips. So try my best to stay on my toes, but at the same time, based on experience, I've learned to not be in a rush, because sometimes you may think something big is about to happen in the market, and realistically nothing major happened, just a normal market, but you probably end up chasing the move or over risk your account because of expectation, and next thing you know, you lost 50% of your equity or you blown your account. So what you need to do is only take trades based on probability. Give yourself a chance to at least 10 to 20 trades before you could take a major loss. You'll have to lose like 10 trades in a row to take a major loss. That's how you have to go about it. And when it comes to account flips and you want to do a quick flip, you just want to make sure that you're taking the best entries. Like right now for the $100 account challenge, the small account challenge, I haven't taken any trade on my account yet. Not that there weren't opportunities. I don't feel like it's go time. So when the time comes, who knows what I'm gonna flip that amount to, and I may end up losing it too. You never know. But either way, we're gonna take it head on. And as you guys know, I could get you guys 200% bonus on any deposit that you make with my recommended broker. So therefore, you have more equity as well to trade in the market. Very important. Gold is still buying. The best position I would do is a buy right now. And I don't see any sell opportunities happening just yet. So yeah. Let's see. There it goes. We have to reach top Bollinger Band on the 5-minute time frame. And the thing is, with this setup, it may reach it and keep going higher. So something to keep in mind. Yeah, I think it's gonna go a little higher than that. So up here and up there, different places. No trade for me really. Like I said, I could have took the buy, but it's like a little buy. It may end up turning out to a bigger buy, but I don't think it's ready yet for me to strike hard. Nas don't really give that much moves in the nighttime. Last night it did though. But I have this chart potentially going up for more buys, but do expect potential pullback. So at the next pullback, which could happen from today, maybe down here or down here, I don't know just yet. But right now Nas is saying it wants to go bullish, all bullish long term. I remember this entry. This was probably the best entry of the week for the buy. I remember it clearly. It also gave itself on the 15. Oh my God, that was beautiful. Beautiful retests after the break. Let's see how we're looking here on the gold though. Gold is doing that in its own way. This is where it broke, pushing up for higher highs. Now it's just a matter of how high is it going to get for us to get that next best entry. Gold is pushing higher. We going to the top Bollinger Band, guys. That's how the market do. It goes from zone to zone. Bottom to the middle, middle to the top. Bollinger Band. That's where we're going right now. So once price reach there, we know we there. Right up there. We are all bullish. There it goes, it's pushing. No signals have been called yet. I was gonna send the sell limit yesterday, but I didn't. So we're waiting for the opportunities. Yo, what's going on? What's up, Jackson? You killing it right now, man. Nice. That's crazy. 25K in 6 days. That's what's up, man. What lot size you doing? 0.01 or 0.05s? I mean, yeah, 0.50 or 1.00 standard. Yes, sir. Gold is slowly pushing up. That's good stuff. That's good stuff, man. Keep working. Look at gold push up higher. So you have to know these moves, man. You have to know these pullbacks. Without knowing these pullbacks, you're gonna get stuck. Forcing trades, because we know gold wanting to sell for the trend, but as of right now, price is going against. We just don't know how far up it's gonna keep going against, but we still in a downtrend on the H4 time frame. I see an area we could possibly reach. It's right up here. we're pushing up. Pushing up higher and higher. Good. Alright, so I have price going to a certain area for potential take profits and then giving us a sell entry if everything goes as planned. So as of right now, the main sell limits areas that I have is going to be the key entry zone for on the Jackpot strategy. I'm gonna show you right now. H1 time frame. We still gotta go up there, guys. Don't even trip. Alright, what my keys on that? Let's hide these. Yeah, key zone right here. I think price is gonna reach right here. This is where I would realistically want to re-enter this trade for a sell. Take a sell trade here. For me. That's what I see. So that's a little distance up there. Yeah, so that resistance zone literally right here is where I would want to take my sell trade. But it's not ready yet, guys. So right now it's all bullish move for gold. Yeah, right here is entries for the sell. Here, all this area here will be entries for the sell soon. Take no rush this week, guys. No rush. Take your time. Take your time, guys. Profits is going to come. All right, let's see what the chat's saying. There is a gap on the H4. There was a gap earlier in the week. That was all the way down there. So now we having information, lower low, lower high, for a new lower low. Whew. This new lower low, I can't wait for it, man. Moving average across the 30 time frame for continuation by, yeah, 30-minute time frame, yeah. We are looking for bullish on the 30-minute time frame for sure. I see that. I see that right here. Yeah, 30-minute time frame. We're getting the crossover. And there was an 800 MA there too. So we definitely going up there to the next one for sure. Yeah. Gold is going up, guys. Little by little. Slowly but surely. Look at that. It's pushing. There it is. Alright, you see that push on gold right now? The reason for it is because it wants to go and fully test this area here. And that is exactly what it's doing. Just test it, and it didn't fully do it yet. Yeah, it's pushing up. Alright, we pushing. Do you guys think we're gonna break through? This is the 5-minute top Bollinger Band right here. If it was going to sell, guys, it would have fully reversed right here, but it's not doing that. So let's keep an eye out to see how far it goes up. Now I'm thinking it may just go up a little higher. Nas is pushing down a little bit, and gold is buying. Alright guys, I think we're gonna head over here. Back at the key entries on low, man. That's where I want to take my trade for a sell. But as of right now, the way the market is looking, I'm looking for buys. As of right now. Alright. Price is above. Price is above the daily entry. So I'm looking for buys now. Yeah, man. Appreciate you guys, man. We're gonna keep working, man. Keep staying locked in. Staying consistent. But I really want you guys to really understand the strategy as a whole. And I will be creating more videos to explain in details exactly how to use it. It's pretty simple, pretty basic. Like I said, guys, the strategy is all about Bollinger Band. Bollinger Band is the main fundamental of the Jackpot strategy. That's like the backbone of the Jackpot strategy, right? All that really happens is, let's just say we hide everything, okay? All that really happens is price is going to go from zone to zone, Okay, that's all that really means. And what does that mean? Price is going to go from zone to zone. As you could see clearly on the 5-minute time frame, price bought from this area, 5-minute bottom Bollinger Band, to the middle Bollinger Band. Once it reached the middle Bollinger Band, it bought from there to the top Bollinger Band. This is why when I came on the call, on the live, we started off, gold was somewhere around here or around here. I told you guys, based on this setup, price is testing the daily entry. We're going to go for a buy to top Bollinger Band, and that's exactly what happened. Price went for a buy from the daily entry line, from the Jackpot strategy. Now, from what I could see here, we have a long way to go, okay, for the buy. And it seems like price is going to continue pushing up towards this resistance zone here, where I would want to take my sell trade. And this resistance zone here is also key entry zone from the Jackpot strategy around these areas. So that tells me here and here is going to be my next entry zone. Matter of fact, I want to let go of my previous analysis just so I can have a new perspective on what I'm expecting, which is exactly like I said, entry here and here, because price right now is pushing up higher. If it's pushing up higher, whenever that happens, that's means there's a destination that it wants to go to, it needs to get to. So what we are seeing right now is price working to go towards that area that it really wants to get to. Yeah, it is pushing very nicely right now for the buy. But I'm waiting for my take profit zone. I have my take profit zone ready because that's where I'm gonna look to take my sell trade. And there's no rush for me too on this setup, guys. There's no rush. Because once it's time, I'm gonna see it super clear and I'm just gonna take action on it. Alright, one of the thing about this strategy is that once we break past a moving average, for example, we are about to break past the top Bollinger Band on the 5-minute time frame, that's mean that area is going to turn to a new support zone. And price is just going to keep pushing higher. So if that's the case, where's the next destination? And based on this, the next destination is here. Any higher than that would be here. Okay, which I think it could possibly do for sure. So, but we'll see. It looks better on the maybe H1. Let's see H1. Yeah, H1 is probably gonna be our best bet. Like maybe entry. If we don't get the entry here for the sell, we're gonna get the entry here for the sell. But the cool thing is, we don't necessarily have to miss out on this buy. We don't necessarily have to miss out on this buy to get this sell. So even earlier this morning, I made a little bit of profit on this little buy here, but I could have held this trade a little bit longer. I just didn't know how strong the sell trend was going to be since it started off super strong. But as of right now, it's looking like if price fully respects this zone, then we should be going all the way back up. If not, I think we're good here for the buy. We have our signal for the buy, where we're gonna get take profit right up here. Alright, so we just have to wait and see, I guess, on a setup like this. Yeah, what other pairs you guys are trading? I don't really trade other pairs like that no more. Just because, I don't. Yeah. I like to trade gold and NAS, guys, because of the volatility it brings. You know, I could get a lot more out of gold and NAS than any other pair. Yeah, the next sale for NAS is gonna be nice. I mean, the next sale for gold is going to be nice. I'm actually looking forward to it. And the cool part about that next sell on gold, if it really goes the way I think it could go, we going down for a long time for that long-term sell. So we'll see.
My work is easy because I use ClickUp. Here's how I keep track of all my tasks. I start by brain dumping everything I need to get done in a list view. Next, I set a priority and a due date to keep things on track.
Prime Minister Carney, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
There is clearly Iran that's going to be dominating to a great extent your summit of world leaders, the first time you've all got together since this war in the Middle East. I want to know from your perspective, and you've talked to President Trump, where do you think it is now? Is the war over?
Well, there has been obviously significant developments in recent days and recent hours. The position of Iran has been substantially degraded, both with respect to airspace, potentially significantly with respect to their nuclear capabilities or development of their nuclear capabilities.
Let me save my energy for gold and NAS. But BTC is also in my list as well, so I could definitely take a look at BTC and GBP USD as well. But BTC is better. Alright, so right now on BTC we had a little dip, followed by a major comeback. We reached 99,000, and now we're pushing higher. Alright, strong support. So BTC is pushing back up. Alright, but we may have a retest. We may have a retest to the middle Bollinger Band. Maybe, maybe not. Or it may just stay in the uptrend. It's looking very bullish right now. Yeah, BTC is looking very bullish right now.
Move by Iran. It was, we never welcome, obviously, hostilities and
yeah, it's going bullish.
It was proportionate.
Let's see.
Let's
see.
It appears to have been previewed, which allowed, and they're Canadian soldiers at the Qatari base as well. So
did you get them out of harm's way?
They were out of harm's way. Yes.
So it's par for the course.
GU is very bullish as well. GU gave a nice entry at the bottom Bollinger Band right here. Golly, that was beautiful.
Really get traction and move to
on the H1. That's since Monday to now. Yeah, that's nice. Some nice buy. Wow, W formation on the H4. Who caught this buy move right here on GU? Anyone? This was so clear.
President Trump at one point posted about, hey, why not regime change if they can't make this, what do you call it, make Iran great again? Why not change regime? Israel looked like it was really going for
This is a nice entry right here.
and a lot inside, frankly, densely populated areas like the capital, Tehran.
Who caught it? Y'all caught it?
Space, at least, for people to rise up and take their own destiny.
Yeah, that's a nice entry on GU, guys. Been clean.
I know you talked to President Trump on the phone during all this.
Right off the 30-minute Bollinger Band. Look at that. Right off the 30. Entry. TP1. Well, TP1 50 MA. TP2 middle Bollinger Band. TP3 top Bollinger Band. These are the best setups. You got out GU too early. Yeah, that be happening. That be happening, bro. I totally get it. I understand.
To take the nuclear option off the table.
Let's see GJ.
Do you see a way, because they insist on having nuclear capacity and certainly civilian nuclear reactors, do you see a way, has anybody informed Canada or yourself about the way to do that?
Well, I think that the reaction
All right, GJ did the same thing. Look, 30-minute bottom Bollinger Band entry.
Much of its nuclear program.
Middle entry, market gap, pushed up a little higher. Now GJ is finally selling. This is a clean sell opportunity on GJ now. Oof, look at that. What would stop loss be on this move?
Over many, many years on a path that created
55 pips. That's not bad.
It was entirely not necessary for.
That's not bad. Those that trade GJ. It is consolidating. It is consolidating, yes. But it's looking very good for a sell. And the only reason I say that is because price right now is under the daily entry, DE. Price is under the daily entry.
I think it's pretty clear, just in public domain.
So that's why I said potential sell coming, and I think it could sell.
The Russian allies.
If it breaks this zone here, it's definitely going to keep selling.
Desire to go to
30, yeah. We're going to keep dropping to about right here.
When Israel started.
TP1,
we weren't party to the
TP1,
but they hadn't,
TP2.
Iran had not proceeded with.
Of course, they'll have to break the moving average on the cloud.
We didn't know that there was really
50 MA is all red.
How likely is it?
All red candles as well. We don't really have a crazy break and retest pattern, but the indicator is saying sell, at least for this setup. Again, price is underneath the daily entry. So that means if you enter the trade, you have your stop loss above it. 9 times out of 10, most likely it's a safe trade. What do you guys think about GJ yourself?
You want to help lead, form new coalitions. You've said, in fact, if the United States no longer wants to lead,
what do you guys think about it?
Try to build a coalition of like-minded nations with like-minded values, etc., and who believe in international cooperation. What does that look like? And is that something that will trigger President Trump into more anger? He's already got these tariffs, and he's already said, if you guys essentially try to gang up on me, you'll have to pay for it even more dearly.
I think we have to look at this in the way we would like to lead, the way European Union would like to lead, a number of Asian countries as well, is in a positive respect. If the U.S. is pulling back from multilateralism as it is with respect to trade, these are effectively, U.S. trade policy is now bilateral. If the U.S. is pulling back, there are others of us who do believe in multilateralism. So, as you know, literally I'm coming here in the last 12 hours ago, I was in Brussels, agreeing at the Canada-EU summit, agreeing a very comprehensive partnership and a process to have an ever closer economic, defense, and security partnership between Canada and the EU. That is an example of to jurisdictions, in the case of the EU, that believe in multilateralism, believe in the rule of law, believe in fair and open trade, believe in defense cooperation. So that's an example of leadership, if you will, that's positive. It's not it's a reaction, if you will, to what's happening in the United States. But it's not a reaction against the United States. It's for something, not against.
But President Trump tends to be A, transactional, and B, very personal. And sometimes he thinks, or maybe you know differently. They say that you're the Trump whisperer of the leaders, and that you're on texting, relations with him, and you're constantly.
Gold is consolidating a bit, but
saying he wants to annex Canada?
He's not.
Looking to push up.
He admires Canada, I think it's fair to say, and maybe for a period of time coveted Canada, but
you've put that to
well, look, we're two sovereign nations who are discussing the future of our trade relationships, our defense partnership, which has been very strong in the past. How is that going to evolve? But again, I would say it this way: the president is focused on a series of changing bilateral relations. We're at NATO. He's been focused on making sure that all members, Canada included, of NATO pay their fair share, carry their weight. I think we are now doing that. We've made major investments in defense in recent months. We're now at the NATO 2%. We're committed to accelerating that. We've got this new defense partnership with Europe as another example. That's other countries stepping up. I don't see that is at all. I think that's positive. We're doing it for our own reasons, but I think it's positive for the U.S. relationship, not something that.
But it's pretty sudden and it's pretty overnight. The whole dumping you in the. Now we have to take care of our own security, and not only that, we have to help prevent this increasing invasion by a hostile force in Europe, Russia, against a democratic, sovereign, independent state. Suddenly it's all landed on your lap. So how realistic is it in a time when you already have economic difficulties, so does some, Europe and others, to actually, you're at 2%, but now they want 2.5% and eventually 5%. Isn't that just going to cripple your budgets?
It's important. These are important questions, and it's important to be clear what we are potentially, and I think likely to all agree tomorrow, which is, and let's take the 5% of GDP figure, which is a huge number.
How much is it actually for you?
5% of our GDP would be about
I want to know what they actually did with the strike that Trump did. How was it damaged?
Breaking news, we are just getting some new reporting on Israel's assessment of the strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities. This is crucial because the context here is, CNN learning, or Natasha Bertrand reporting on that early U.S. intelligence assessment, which found that the U.S. military strikes did not destroy Iran's nuclear program and likely only set it back for months. Jim Sciutto is out front in Washington with this new reporting.
You guys hearing this?
And Jim, in the context of the...
Oh, you guys hearing this? Oh my God. I had a feeling last night something like this was going to happen. Like, where nothing major really happened and the ceasefire was not really going to do much. I had a major feeling. Nice little pullback on road, but let's hear this real quick.
Context here is, CNN learning, or Natasha Bertrand reporting on that early U.S. intelligence assessment, which found that the U.S. military strikes did not destroy Iran's nuclear program and likely only set it back for months. Jim Sciutto is out front in Washington with this new reporting. And Jim, in the context of the firestorm around this report from the Pentagon, what you're learning from Israeli intelligence is so crucial. What are you finding out?
A senior Israeli intelligence source tells me that Israel's own BDA, or bomb damage assessment of the U.S. strike, specifically on the Fordo underground nuclear facility, mirrors that CNN is reporting from the Defense Intelligence Agency, and that is that the damage from those strikes was limited and perhaps even less extensive than believed initially. So the Israeli assessment matching the U.S. assessment as we were reporting. Now, both the U.S. and Israel continue to gather intelligence, and I've been told throughout that doing BDAs takes time, and it takes multiple sources, not just images from the sky, right, but also human intelligence, signals, intercepts, etc. I will say this, though, Aaron, I was told by this Israeli intelligence source that Israel's assessment is that the sum total of U.S. and Israeli strikes on those nuclear facilities set back Iran's nuclear program by 2 years. So going further than that U.S. assessment of perhaps setting it back months. The other point I would note is this, that I've been told in this context, but also repeatedly by Israeli officials, that if Iran attempts to reconstitute or rebuild these damaged facilities, Israel will certainly strike again. Of course, the question is, would the U.S. do the same?
Right, a real question. And also, Jim, I know that, these could be different analyses, but before the U.S. strikes, the Israeli government had already said, the prime minister had said that the Israeli strikes prior to Trump's strikes had set the nuclear program back 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
So if what you're saying, if that would indicate, I suppose, in some way that the U.S. strike may not have really had much of an impact at all. Unclear. It's hard to connect those two, but it certainly raises that question. All right, this is huge, obviously hugely significant reporting from Jim Sciutto, and it matches what Natasha Bertrand is putting out here, Jim, from what you're learning.
One thing I'll say as well, this source said to me, and this is not inconsistent with what you'll hear from U.S. intelligence officials, that BDAs are, in the words of this Israeli source, an art as opposed to a science, right, to some degree, right? And we should not be so surprised by the limited nature of the damage, because I've been told repeatedly for years that to completely destroy these sites, you would likely need multiple strikes. Even with the size of the weapons, these bunker busters that were used, multiple strikes, and also a ground component, right? Boots on the ground to assess, but also go into the areas that you couldn't reach from the air. And that was, I'm sure that was on the menu of options the president had, but given the danger, it was not one that he chose to take.
All right, Jim Sciutto, thank you so much. A significant new reporting there. Let's go to Scott Roker, nuclear expert, vice president of the Nuclear Threat Initiative, and retired Army General James Spider Marks, former commanding general of the Army Intelligence Center. So you, in that capacity, seen so many of these assessments. So, Scott, you hear the Israelis, the bomb damage assessment mirroring the reporting of the U.S. initial assessment from the Pentagon that the U.S. strikes would have possibly set the program back by months and did not obliterate it. Are you surprised by these findings and that the Israeli initial assessment seems to support it?
Yeah, these reports are definitely concerning, but I would say it's still too early to know whether these strikes were successful from a military standpoint. But I think it's important to take these reports in the context of what we heard from the vice president earlier this week, that the highly enriched uranium that Iran possesses was not addressed in this attack. And so all the reports that we're hearing are definitely concerning. And the highly enriched uranium is really important because that's the most difficult step in getting a nuclear weapon. And so the fact that that was not addressed in the attack is a big concern for me. But fundamentally, I don't think you can address this military or the Iranian nuclear program through military strikes. You can destroy equipment, but you can't take away that knowledge, that know-how. The Iranians have been working on nuclear issues for decades. It's multifaceted. It's a extensive program. So for me, the military solution never made sense from the start.
General, you spent your military career as an intelligence officer, so you've been part of these assessments. How do you see it?
Well, fundamentally, when you do intelligence, there's intelligence that you share. Now, clearly, we have an arrangement that we call the Five Eyes with that group of nations that we openly share essentially everything. And with the Israelis, we have routinely been in a sharing type environment, and specifically with this current circumstance, we've opened the door. So what you're seeing possibly is the Israeli assessment and the DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency assessment, shared the same intel. And in many cases, those narratives within the body of that assessment might have been cut and pasted and moved from the Israeli assessment to the U.S. assessment. That doesn't concern me at all. Second point is we're conflating, not us, I mean, everybody in the administration is conflating a bunch of terms, and it drives military dudes nuts. What does obliterated mean? I don't know. That's a street term. I can obliterate a guy with a punch in the throat. I can destroy, but the military terms are you either destroy or you defeat or you delay. And if you destroy, it disappears. If you defeat it, it's probably going to come back. And if you delay it, you give yourself some time to figure out, they may resurrect themselves over a course of time, and then you get prepared for the next step. So those are two fundamental things I think we should be considering.
That's facts.
Oh, right. So Scott, when I want to show again, these are the images, that anyone watching has seen in recent days, and we tried to understand them. The Fordow nuclear site, which was at the core of the U.S. strike, right? And it had been presented by some erroneously, but if Trump just decides to drop one of those mother of all bombs, it goes away. It was clear before that it was not that simple, and it's certainly clear now. You see the craters from the U.S. bombs there. They look very small from the satellite, but obviously that shows just how huge they are. Former UN nuclear weapons inspector David Albright, I know you know him, he used these and other images and some other information that he found to do his own assessment. He sent it to us. I just wanted to read part of what he said. He said, overall, Israel's and U.S. attacks have effectively destroyed Iran's centrifuge enrichment program. It will be a long time before Iran comes anywhere near the capability it had before the attack. That being said, there are residuals, such as stocks of 60%, 20%, and 35% enriched uranium, and the centrifuge is manufactured but not yet installed. Those non-destroyed parts pose a threat. It sounds as if he's focused on what you're focused on, which is what we don't know about the enriched uranium and their centrifuge backups.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think he's speaking mostly about the Fordow and the Natanz, the two known enrichment facilities in Iran. But we lost a lot of visibility on the Iranian nuclear program when the U.S. left the JCPOA, the so-called Iran deal, in 2018. After that point, we lost track of where centrifuges are located, where highly enriched uranium is located as well. And so the fact that, these military strikes have just focused on the two known enrichment facilities, it doesn't address the entire problem. There are centrifuges that are still out there that we don't know where they're located. I mean, in fact, a couple of weeks ago, the Iranians said they had a third enrichment facility, which we haven't heard anything more about from the U.S. or the Israelis. And so this is really important because that's the machine you need to basically turn the 60% enriched uranium into weapons grade 90% enriched uranium.
We know, General, that Israelis have penetrated, from a human intelligence perspective, deeply into Iran. Do you think that means we will get real answers here?
Yes, I would think absolutely. That penetration, unless it's for some reason now been uncovered and those folks are at risk, I have no reason to believe that. It's been over the course of many, many years that's been in place. So this is phenomenal tradecraft, and I would think that those are the eyes on the target, potentially, that will give us much more clarity through the filter of the individual. But there's always that challenge. But having those eyes, that primary source, is essential to a really clear and precise, more precise bomb damage assessment.
Si lo que estás buscando es aprender cómo se construyen arquitecturas reales, escalables, basadas en eventos, este curso es para ti. En este curso vamos a diseñar e implementar una arquitectura completa de micro.
The truce between Israel and Iran appears to be holding for now, hours after President Trump accused both sides of violating the fragile ceasefire that he announced overnight. As he set off for the NATO summit this morning, the president swore in front of reporters as his frustration, particularly at Israel, boiled over. You'll hear in full what he had to say in a moment. Tonight, Donald Trump has been warmly welcomed in The Hague, where NATO leaders have sat down to dinner at the start of the two-day summit on defense. It comes, though, as questions are now being raised in the United States about just how successful the American airstrikes were on Iran's nuclear facilities. is our North America editor, Sarah Smith.
Israel launched a barrage of airstrikes on Tehran as the ceasefire deadline approached, also striking Iranian missile launchers in a last-minute all-out assault. Donald Trump was furious with both Iran and particularly Israel for not respecting the deal.
I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot.
We often see President Trump exasperated, but never actually swearing like this.
You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Understand that Israel has pushed him too far this time, just when he's on his way to take a victory lap at a NATO summit in The Hague, but only if the truce holds. He posted on social media, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do, it's a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. Then from onboard Air Force One, in a call to the Israeli Prime Minister, which the White House described as exceptionally firm and direct, Trump demanded he stick to the ceasefire. And then posted again, saying, Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be with a friend of mine.
The NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte, is hosting Donald Trump in The Hague tonight. They get on well, but he might be very surprised to find the text messages he sent praising the president posted on social media. He wrote, Mr. President, dear Donald, congratulations and thank you for your decisive action in Iran. That was truly extraordinary, something no one else dared to do. It makes us all safer.
About aggression by
On Air Force One, Mr. Trump is already talking about his desire to agree a ceasefire in Ukraine.
You know, I'd like to see a deal with Russia. As you know, Vladimir called me up. He said, can I help you with Iran? I said, no, I don't need help with Iran. I need help with you.
Donald Trump loves a grand VIP welcome, arriving at the Royal Palace in The Hague, where he's meeting other NATO leaders, talking to them about spending more on their own defence, about Ukraine, and what he considers to be his crowning achievement in the Middle East. It's being reported here in America tonight that those American airstrikes on Iran might not have done as much damage to their nuclear facilities as Donald Trump claimed when he said they had been completely obliterated. An early Defense Department assessment that's been leaked says that the core components of Iran's nuclear program may not have been destroyed, that the country might only have been set back a few months, and that much of their enriched uranium stockpiles could have been moved to secret sites before the attack. Now, the White House are very angry about that. They've pushed back, saying this is flat wrong. The press secretary said everyone knows what happens when you drop 14 30,000-pound bombs perfectly on their target. Total obliteration, she said. But they're not saying the Defense Department assessment is untrue.
Sarah Smith, our North America editor, thank you. Well, Israel and Iran had launched large-scale attacks at each other overnight. In Iran, targets were hit in the capital, Tehran, and in the northern region of Gilan, where local officials now say at least 16 people were killed. In Israel, the southern city of Beersheba was hit. 4 people were killed in a missile strike on a residential building. From Jerusalem, Lucy Williamson.
We don't really know what's going to happen, guys. In the next
Beersheba was still a war zone this
days.
morning as Iran announced its commitment to peace. Rescue teams bringing out bodies from an apartment block hit in a final salvo of missiles 5 minutes before Iran agreed to the truce. One sliced through the walls straight into a bomb shelter, rescuers said, killing several people inside.
It's not about how many landed, it's why are missiles still being targeted towards civilian buildings like this?
There's meant to be a ceasefire this morning.
You know, actions speak volumes, and this speaks for itself.
I think Israel need to hit back Iran because Iran kill people. Iran said peace, but there is no peace, no peace.
As we were there, another alert came in, warning of more missiles fired from Iran after Israel had also agreed to the truce. But Israeli planes on their way to retaliate were called back home on the orders of Donald Trump. Tonight, Israel's Prime Minister vowed to act against any new nuclear threat.
All the actions that our fighters have taken have brought Iran's nuclear program to ruins. And if anyone in Iran tries to revive this project, we will act with the same determination and strength to end any such attempt. I repeat, Iran will not have nuclear weapons.
Iran still has the capability to fire missiles at Israel and has warned of a powerful response to any further attacks. The war has shifted power in Israel's favor, but tonight in Tehran, protesters called for their leaders to resist.
We must see it through to the end. There's no benefit in stopping now. Just like what happened in Gaza and Lebanon, Israel, America, and Trump himself cannot be trusted at all.
Iran will avenge the people you killed, said Suhaila. One day we'll catch you off guard. Be sure of that. In northern Israel today, a souvenir from 12 days of conflict. An interceptor used in Israel's air defenses. Israel says this short war has made the region safer by weakening Iran as a military threat. But it's weakened the regime as well. Lucy Williamson, BBC News, Beersheba.
Amgen uses the best of biology and technology to fight the world's toughest diseases, such as cancer, cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, asthma, and rheumatoid arthritis. We live in a new era of human health, and Amgen continues to accelerate the pace of change. Tools like AI, generative biology, and human data help us.
All right, gangs. What do you guys think? Is gold gonna give us a better pullback, or this is it for the sell entry now? Because we did reach top Bollinger Band now, guys. We definitely did reach top Bollinger Band. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but it's about that time for me to clock out. I'm still looking for a setup here. If I see it, I'm definitely gonna send a signal. But as of right now, it's looking like it still could buy a little bit for a little pullback. So it's just a matter of how it's going to be able to do that. So we wait. Yeah, about 50% pullback I'm expecting as well. So hopefully we're going to get that 50% pullback so I could get my entries for the sell later. If not, then it's probably going to keep going for a buy. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me today, guys. I'm not gonna be too long, just so we could be able to stay consistent. So I'll be back tomorrow, same time, locked in. If I see a move, I'm sending it to you guys. Be ready, be prepared, make sure they have funds in your account. And yeah, let's lock in, man. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Talk soon.